from Sri Sai Institute of Higher Learning and was topper and gold medalist at Bangalore University in her B.Ed course. She also successfully accomplished her MSc in chemistry from Annamalai University. She started her teaching journey as a teacher with an international school and worked in several capacities, including the head of quality management in academics and education. She then joined the foundation school and is currently serving as the principal. Her journey with Sai is truly remarkable. She is an alumna of Bal Vikas and Swami's Anantapur Institute. Being a part of the music group in college, she participated in several music programs held in Swami's physical presence on various occasions. In this journey of imparting knowledge, she continued to serve Bhagwan as one of the key members in the initial team that brainstormed ideas for the Sri Satya Sai Vidya Vahini program and served in this area for about 8 years in content preparation, teacher training, and coordination. Swami has provided her with many opportunities to share her experiences with Bhagwan in satsangs and gatherings. Please join me in welcoming Sister Sindhuja.
Om Shri Sai Ram. Am I audible? Om Shri Sai Ram. Offering my most humble pranams at the lotus feet of our Divine Lord, without whom it isn't even possible to take a breath on a daily basis. There is a reason that I had requested for the seating arrangement to be this way. It isn't just to sort of give relief from sitting on chairs. The topic that was given to me today was mastering the art of resilience. What are your thoughts? What is the meaning of the word resilience? Any ideas? Capability, adaptability, okay. Bouncing back, yes. There are no wrong answers, so please feel free to share. Preparedness, okay. It might be helpful if somebody was there to sort of pass a mic around so that it is audible. To withstand difficult situations. So we've had 4 different thoughts: preparedness, adaptability, the ability to bounce back, facing difficult situations. I think as human beings, we have no dearth of challenges in our daily lives. the question that often arises is, if I am doing everything as per dharmic expectation, I'm not doing anything to hurt anyone, I'm doing the best I can within my given scope, I go to work or I go to study as per the discipline expected, yet there are challenges, disappointments. Why me? Do we go through that thought process? How many of us are in that boat? Why me? Yes? Other people here who think, no, it's all right, it's okay if it happens to me? Anybody here who feels it's just fine, it's okay. Let difficulties keep coming my way, I'm okay with it. Yeah? But we have a minority in that group. So, there was a situation once which I wanted to share as the starting point of what I hope will be more of a sharing session rather than one-way communication. So this is a personal experience that I was put through, which I believe tested the very limit of resilience, faith, as well as trying to understand what is the balance that needs to be maintained. So I have 2 children, and when my older one was about a year and a half, she developed a fever one fine day. And in general, from the time she was about 3 or 4 months old, she would often come down with fevers, and the only scary part was every time she ran a temperature, it would go up to 105. So the doctors had given me to understand, for some children, the temperature regulatory center in the brain sometimes takes longer to develop. So you shouldn't be too scared even if it goes to 105, but be watchful so that it doesn't go any higher because it could cause permanent damage. So every month I used to go through this cycle of closely watching as she fell ill and trying to get her back. And then it sort of became a routine where even if she ran a fever, there was no stress. One would just say that, okay, do the needful and she'd be fine in 2 to 3 days. So when she was about a year and a half, close to almost 2, she developed this fever of about 103, 104. For 24 hours straight, the fever didn't come down. The next morning, it touched 101, and then it stayed there. So the paracetamol and then testing to give antibiotics, antivirals, different things were tried. 5 days, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 days, still no change. 101 temperature throughout the day for a month. Then this little child, they said, let's start putting her through various other tests, which are probably not things that are not visible on a normal blood panel. Let's start looking for those possibilities. This situation continued for another 1 month, so 60 days. Still the fever hadn't touched normal. The temperature was 101, 102 in that area, sometimes spiking to 105. And one must understand, while I'm narrating this in a very objective manner right now, when you are a young mother with a child in your arms who constantly cannot even lift her head, can't drink more than a sip of water at a time, eat anything and you can't digest it, can't sleep, and interestingly, the child hardly cried. That was the only indication to me that there was a higher power that was at work. Because no child who's uncomfortable will be silent. She continued to smile weakly, talk every now and then, but then she would lapse into silence and just sort of putting up with it. Once every 24 hours she would say, when will I get better? So that utter sense of helplessness, that feeling, when you feel that you are a parent You feel this load of responsibility that this child who has been placed in your care, you aren't doing enough to get that child better. It is ego. At the end of it, if one is fooled into believing that a child's well-being is because of one's own doing, it means that we are thinking a little too much about our own progress. So the visits to the doctors continued. The greatest blessing was the fact that we were associated with Swami's hospital. So the doctors there were extremely caring, and they were constantly in touch with us about the well-being of our daughter. At the end of the 85th day of this saga, one of the specialists said, I consult in another hospital where some more advanced tests can be done. If you would be willing to bring the child, we will see if there needs to be more testing and more diagnosis to be finalized. So there was a test done, and it indicated quite strongly that this might be tuberculosis and that it is probably spread to the spine. The problem is this test is not 100% accurate. So again, there was at crossroads. If I had decided to give in and say, let's go for the treatment, it involved giving an extremely high dose of antibiotics every single day for 6 months, with the side effect being permanent damage to the nervous system. So I was at a crossroads to decide, cure the child of the fever now and live with permanent disabilities probably, or continue to push the boundaries and say somewhere this higher power will cure. So around the 90th day, when I went to visit the specialist again, he said, something in me says, let us wait for one more day, and if things don't get better, we will start the treatment. And I looked at him and I said, what's going to change between today and tomorrow? He said, I don't know, I'm just not in the zone right now to just start this medication off, because there's no turning back once we begin. So sometimes that voice that you're searching for within might come through a different channel. On the 91st day since this saga had begun, 6 a.m. in the morning, the fever broke. It finally touched 98.4. First there was relief, then there was disbelief, then there was self-doubt whether I had tested the temperature properly, and then there was fear, because what if this is just temporary and it comes back? What I want to draw everyone's attention to in this entire theme of what I have shared, the challenge wasn't a small one, it wasn't short, it had no obvious answers, it only seemed to present more and more challenges as one delved deeper. And even when the challenge seemed to be solved, the first thing was doubt rather than faith. This particular circumstance helped me realize one very important aspect of human nature. Faith seems to come as the last resort. Despite the fact that we have this immense force behind us. For those of us, I'm given to understand we have a mix here of those of us who are from Swami's organization and those who have come in for seva and out of interest have joined this group today. In every one of our lives, whether it is in the form of Satya Sai Baba or it is in the form of any higher power that we embrace, why is it that we choose to trust in that power only when things go right? So this brings me back to that original question, why me? Suppose we challenge ourselves to say, why not me? Let's flip it. Why not me? It's okay. Bring everything you have, dear universe, towards me, because there is a higher power behind me that will ensure that I get through it. But in order for that to happen, that cancellation of the ego has to start very early. The minute I decided that as a mother I am helpless and I have to let go, the cure happened. Till then I was holding on to the notion that I had to do something to cure the child, which I obviously could not. So yesterday, I think at the end of the day, the organizers would have passed around chits and everyone was asked to write 2 words. When you were going through a really tough situation, what is it that you felt? And at the point that you overcame it, what was it that you were awash with? What is it that sort of pushed you to overcome it? So I spent a little time when I came in this morning to read through all of your writings. Obviously they were anonymous and we don't know each other personally. There is a lot of common thread that runs through most responses. During the period of being in a particular situation that is tough, we face anxiety, we face self-doubt, we face anger, we have this feeling of helplessness. We feel that we need to be in control, but we are unable to be. We don't know how much longer we need to go through this, and doubt and doubt and more doubt. And then when we finally overcame it, which every single one of you had written you had, there was no situation where people said, I'm still in it and I don't know how to get over it. Every single person in this room has crossed that bridge. And in retrospect, we felt relief. We felt something stronger than me helped me to get through it. We felt, yes, things are finally back to normal. So question, why couldn't we start with the end when we were in it? So, do we have a couple of cordless mics that we can pass around? One for the ladies and one for the gents. Do we have another for the other side? We have one wired mic. Okay. So I want us to sort of turn this into a conversation. And again, coming back to the seating here, one of the greatest things that we as individuals have in our lives is what we call a support system. It could be in the form of family when it's at home. It could be in the form of colleagues and friends in our workplace or in our place of study. Support systems do help. That togetherness does help. But I'm going to come back to understanding what that support system actually means. So I will task you with reminding me, why a support system? What is the role? How much do we actually require it? Okay? So let's open up this conversation now to participants voluntarily sharing a situation you feel you are currently stuck in. You don't have to go into great detail because I don't want it to become uncomfortable for anybody. But something that one is struggling with and requires guidance or answers on how to get through it. And let's see if at the end of it, we can come up with something which helps us in the longer run and not just for situational issues. I leave the floor open. Anybody at all who would like to share? Yes.
So I'm in a course of dentistry. I'm studying dental. I'm in 3rd year. So basically we say in dentistry there are 2 very difficult phases. One is the 2nd year and one is the 4th year. And weirdly, I mean, it's like a few people are naturally gifted. Like we have a lot of hand skills in dentistry. And we have to start treating patients from 3rd year. Second year was a full doubtful journey for me because I'm very bad at hand skills. I'm good at studying but not good at hand skills. So it was always like a competition. I mean, it's like I have always felt competitive because studying was good, so that's why I joined dentistry thinking it's all about studies. But somehow I passed through second year. But now that we've started treating patients, it's getting even more tougher because now it's a responsibility. So every step there is self-doubt. Can I do this because she's doing it better? Patient likes her work. Can I also do good? And this is going to go on. I know I'll get better one day, but at this moment, how do I overcome this?
Thank you for sharing. Before I answer this question directly, and I'm not saying that I'm some genie who will give magical wishes and make it come true, I'm going to share a little parallel. In the introduction, it was mentioned that I'm the principal of a school. One of the toughest journeys that children and students face on a daily basis is comparison. Either parents are comparing them with their siblings or with the neighbor's child. Within the classroom, even in the most empathetic of environments, the minute there is a test conducted, children look at each other's marks even if it is not announced in the classroom. That one little score on a paper makes one feel better or worse. The entire human construct around competition, assessment, judgment, if you actually look at it, is based on a very, very wrong principle of putting one person down and propping another one up. When Swami instituted the gold medal, in his institute, it wasn't done with the intention of telling other people you're not as good as this person. It was the coveted gift that one would work for to get from Bhagwan's own hands. But at no point in time did Swami ever say, this student is better than that student because he got a 5.0 in CGPA and the other one got a 4. There was always inclusivity in everything that happened, which is why Seva played an optimum role in the entire existence of the organization. Why is it that when Bhagwan Sri Satya Sai Baba decided to leave his mortal frame, he ensured that his students were in every single part of his organization? It is to ensure that the legacy that he had left behind of service would continue without interruption. In answer to the question that you have, as an aspiring dentist, currently you are studying to master those skills, but you will very soon be in a situation where people will trust you and come to you, not hoping, but with the belief that you will treat and cure. The minute you think that that responsibility lies on your own shoulders, believe me, your skills are not going to get any better. If the thought that every patient who comes my way, it is an opportunity for me to serve them. What does service do? You look at even Narayan Seva, the opportunity to serve food to those who are in need. We never stand with this high-handed pose that come and take it from me. We bend. We come down to ensure that we are not lording it over them. If you can adapt that little feeling that I am in this hallowed position of being able to offer service, let me tell you, not everybody in this world is blessed to be able to do seva. There are many who want to give of themselves, but circumstance does not allow it. So if that aspect of service comes in, your thought process will stop becoming about comparing yourself to the person next to you who has better skills. Your thoughts will stop dwelling on the fact that academically you are very good, but motor skills wise you're not that blessed. Because even your academic brilliance, can you take any ownership for the fact that you are blessed with a good brain? At birth, what we come with, we really don't have any control over it. There is something, some energy that is deciding how the entire organ system is being amalgamated and what kind of genetic patterns come into play, which part of our brain functions in what way. We can't take any credit for anything that we do well. Neither can we take any credit for anything that we seem to be doing wrong, because there is a learning in all of it. So if you can tell yourself, stop competing with an unknown, stop competing against somebody else who is naturally skilled. Let me now go into this with a single thought that I want to be able to give the best of myself in every way possible so that it does not harm the other person. You will be inspired to constantly practice and get better at what you need to do. That practice does make perfect, by the way. Whether it is dentistry, or it is going prepared for an examination, or it is going to office to make a presentation, discipline and practice, there are no other alternatives to this. And those actually increase the depth of what we have to offer. I hope I have sort of addressed what it is that was on your mind. Any other?
Simon, I have a question where, when you and your partner are not in the terms, usually it is that opposite attracts. So when you are in a frame of mind of serving everybody and you want to go out serve for people, and the other person is not in that frame of mind, can we, do something where, he also joins in our journey of
serving society can come only after there is harmony in the home. Service comes from a space of complete surrender. There is no I anymore in that. In order to destroy that feeling of my self-importance, I'm serving others. The minute I think service is a badge, I shouldn't be serving anymore. When there is disharmony in thought within a household, for any reason, it could be the way we are going to bring up our children, it could be the kind of education system we are going to put them through, it could be our inclinations on the kind of activities we want to do. It is highly important to first understand where that resistance is coming from. If we are constantly in the mode of asserting one's own belief, we have cut off all possibility of listening to what the other person wants to say. And we have already pre-decided the other person is wrong. Swami never said that the only way to please me is service, as in going out and doing service. Can we start small with ensuring that everybody is on the same page at home in terms of maintaining certain basic mutual responsibilities? From there, the next step would be building that communication on faith and mutual respect rather than fear. Because the minute we are saying, I want to do something and this other person doesn't agree with me, it means fear has set in. Anger has set in, anxiety has set in. We take any of those three and go and do service to somebody else, we're actually going to harm them. So, getting that sense of balance within the relationship is extremely important so that your deep-rooted sense of feeling that I would like to be a part of service outside, if you can place it as a prayer, a silent prayer, it will get answered when the time is right with unmixed blessing. There is blessing and then there is unmixed blessing. Blessing is when one or two people say, yes, everything should go your way, let it happen. Unmixed blessing is when, without asking for it, everybody feels it has to happen. A very simple example, my sister. I have one sibling, my older sister. She got married to a non-devotee. A brilliant person. I would say very kind-hearted, very warm, very highly intelligent. But he really did not have any sort of faith in Swami. My sister was personally blessed by Swami on several occasions. He had even materialized a watch for her and tied it for her on her hand during the outgoing interview after her master's degree. So she was extremely physically, in terms of the proximity with Swami also, she had experienced a lot. She and I had sung in Swami's presence many times. So from going there to where, on a daily basis she was in touch with Bhagwan, to going into a household where his form didn't have any real meaning. She had two options. One was to cling on to this so tightly that she would then end up distancing herself from the family that she'd gotten into, or silently hold on to this form in her heart, continue praying, while she made a space for herself in that family. She got married in the year 2001. In 2018 or 19, her husband himself asked, why don't you start going for Samithi bhajans? Uninvited, she didn't ask him anything. You've been sort of silently practicing here, I can hear you singing. Find out if there's a Samithi close by, and why don't you start? And you should start teaching bhajans, inspire more people. Do you want to go to Puttaparthi? Do you want to go to Vrindavan? The timing has to be right. And her greatest, I would say, silent weapon was faith. She didn't need to advertise the fact that she was connected with Bhagwan, because that bond was heart to heart. And he knew that the journey that she would have in building empathy for somebody who's not in that same zone as her would help her to broaden her perspectives a lot more. Very often, we fall into this trap where we believe, because of my belief system, people who are not in the system aren't as blessed as me. It's a misnomer, not with regard to you, but I'm saying very often we do feel this in society. I'm so blessed because Swami is in my life. I really wish they would come into that fold. We don't know what is right for them. That higher power knows more than we ever will, and we shouldn't even assume to project this feeling that there is an us and there is a them. There is only one. Yes, we are extremely blessed because Swami has chosen us. Our greatest challenge is to ensure we hold on to that, because we never know when he will say, please leave. My husband works in Swami's Whitefield Hospital and has had the immense blessing of having been personally chosen by Bhagwan, and he has completed close to 24 years of service in the hospital. But every single day his prayer is, Swami, till my dying breath, keep me next to you. Because we don't know when some change in the balance of grace in the spiritual account shifts in a different direction, and then one is asked to go forth into the world and try something new. So, my only suggestion would be silent prayer and constantly working towards that feeling of harmony, so that that unmixed blessing will find its way to allowing you and your partner to take this forward without any feeling of angst.
not like a part of a family. It can be any other a society or a group, colleagues or other students. Suppose we are faced with a lot of hostility and there is a conflict and you are on the end where you are alone. How would we behave with them? How would we reconcile? What would be the solution? What would be the solution to such a situation?
Thank you for bringing that up. And this is where I'm going to go back to what I'd asked you to remind me of, which was the support group. So her question was, in a given community or a society, you find that there is a large majority that is following something else and you are all alone, or you are seemingly alone. How do you face such a situation? How do you overcome it? How many of us believes, and some of these questions are going to be slightly hard-hitting, which means you'll have to be very honest with yourself and think it through. How many of us believe that if my entire family, friends, everybody whom I know were to suddenly be taken away from me, I would cease to exist? As an individual, I can't live anymore if everything I own, everything I know, everybody I know is taken away from me. It's a scary thought, but it is not a thought that should allow one to perish. I am not belittling the role of family and togetherness. Every member who has sort of been put into our ambit has a role to play in our life. When we are born, our parents have that role of taking care of our everyday needs: shelter, food, education, sense of values. But there are enough children who lose their parents and they still grow up. When we grow up, go forth and get a job, we have colleagues, we have a boss, we have KRAs, we have expectations. Sometimes it doesn't go our way. We are laid off, we are fired. Do we cease to exist? We get married. Some of us, despite all the prayers in the world, may not be able to have children. Do we cease to exist? Other human beings who are put within our ambit are all on individual journeys, as are we. That doesn't mean that we stop ignoring them and do as we please. We have to constantly remind ourselves that we are on this journey together, but on separate wavelengths. We each have a spiritual frequency to reach, which is according to our path of evolution, our point in evolution. And we mustn't be scared when we are put in a situation where everybody seems to be doing the opposite and I am standing by myself, provided we are on the side of dharma. I'm underlining this. There will be times when I hold on so firmly to a belief that I think is correct, I'm unable to see that it is a wrong choice. That is not what I'm talking about. So, coming to the specific situation that our sister here had raised, I'll draw a parallel with something that you are going through. When I was in, I think, my 5th standard, for about 5 years, our family had relocated to Kenya. My father had been sent there to start up a software company as a consultant. And at the end of the 5 years, we relocated to Bangalore. So I had to make the transition back to 10th standard from an international board to CBSE. And yes, while I was born and brought up in India till my 4th standard, the 5-year gap there were changes in adapting and so on. And in my 10th standard, I was quite chubby and I was, shorter. And the entire class of students didn't quite take to me. There was another girl who had, in the same batch, had relocated from Kuwait, very hip, very stylish, very beautiful to look at, and she instantly made friends. And here I was all alone, always. I always had my hair tied in a braid and I had my bindi. Even when we were abroad, that never changed. So we had this entire lot of students who named me African Elephant. So I'd come back from Kenya, which is in Africa, and since I was quite chubby, elephant, and that's what they used to call me. It wasn't a pet name, they were bullying me, they were teasing me. And I felt very, very alone because, I was what, 15 years old? It's difficult to expect a 15-year-old to sort of take this, and by nature, I've always been somebody who stands up very, very strongly for my own rights. So I couldn't keep my mouth quiet, and I often got into sort of tussles with them until I realized this is a losing battle because they've decided to gang up against me. So I had a choice. Either just verbally continue to have spats and sparring matches with them and then lose my peace of mind, or let me focus on what I'm really good at and let that speak for itself. So by Swami's immense grace, academics came easy. So I put in all my energy to studying day and night. And within the first unit test, I topped the class. So suddenly, the African elephant was a gifted African elephant. And, there was a bit of respect that crept in. I didn't go ask, I didn't sort of show my mark sheet and say, give me respect. But by and by, there happened a thawing of that frigidity that had formed around me. And there was this feeling that there is more to a person than what is on the outside, and let's not judge a book by its cover. And by the end of the year, there was a lot of togetherness, and I was voted the class valedictorian. So, the only thing when we are feeling this sense of isolation, question number one, are you on the side of right? Are you holding on to your belief and value systems which you don't want to let go of because it will change who you are? And if you truly believe in that, patience has to be there to allow the situation to resolve itself, because there will come a time, how much longer will people keep you at arm's length? There will come a time when that sense of self that you're holding on to will shine forth, will sort of supersede everything else that has enveloped them in darkness, and then they will come through. Now, having said all this, if those people aren't meant to be in your life's journey, you can survive without it. Why are we looking for acceptance from a group? Is it that important? Right? I very often see this with youth today, this feeling that I need to fit in. I will change my way of dressing, I will change what I eat, I will change the kind of music I'm listening to, I will go to the kind of places that my friends are migrating to because I don't want to be left behind. Let me tell you, that's a very sad existence. If it is naturally who you are, by all means, go for it. But if we're doing this to fit in, no amount of meditation is going to make us any more resilient. We're only going to be stewing in our own mind's juices and never going to get out of it. I think on our Gen side, we have extremely well settled, very comfortable beings. And we should take a leaf out of your book to understand. We will have a separate satsang which looks at how you have managed to reach that level of calmness. Yes.
Saira,
it is like related to that question, but it's not about youth. You said no, we have to fit, we not fit in when it is not up to your group. When it comes from a family.
So when you look at it from a family's perspective, there are two things. If you have gone into it with open eyes, you'll have to figure out how to make it work because nobody has pushed you into that situation. There are choices nowadays. It's not always where somebody else is arranging for this to happen. So if it is a self-choice, there should be no complaint because you're going to have to deal with everything you've taken on. If, however, it seems to have been orchestrated by elders, I'm saying seems to be orchestrated because at the end of the day, I find that every soul has made a choice, knowingly or unknowingly. If our elders have put us in a situation where we go into a family which has very different ways of looking at things from us, I will say the exact same thing that I had said earlier. I am not abdicating men of responsibility, by no means. But believe me, the nature of empathy and nurturing that comes from women is more natural a thing than it comes from men. It is the way the energies are balanced. And within each of us, there is the masculine energy and there is the feminine energy. We do find women who are more assertive, who are more vociferous in the way they say things, and then there are women who are diminutive and who will sort of surrender to everybody's will. And equally, we will find men that way also. This isn't about an identity crisis. It is about realizing that roles and responsibilities that we take on have to be influenced by the way we want the outcome to present itself. If there is something that the family wants, which is only going to impinge on the way we manage our time, then I say, make it happen. Sometimes I'll have to give more time to what is required at home and have an understanding with my workplace that on certain occasions I will need some leeway. If it is something that goes against the very grain of what you stand for, walking away is not going to solve anything because you walk away from this, you'll walk into something worse. Either sit down and have a conversation, or if that's not a possibility, believe you me, prayer works. There is actually no other antidote to all the ills that befall us. Whether it is physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, social, educational, call it what you will. There is no alternative to prayer. And prayer does not mean asking for something one wants. This is something I learned the hard way. I kept praying over and over and over and over again for something. It finally came through and it was so dissatisfying and so much of an anticlimax. I'm like, why did I pray for this? And Swami came in my dream that night and said, you asked for it. You pestered me so much, so I had no choice but to grant it. So, the prayer has to be, help me see what is best for me and make it happen. What is best for you might sometimes be Swami's way of saying, go and have a conversation. Sometimes it might be, stay silent till the situation resolves itself. Sometimes it might be, you won't know what the solution is till it presents itself, so suffer in silence for now. And I am not espousing this without having gone through it myself. In my personal life, in my workplace, enough and more challenges, where resilience is not just an art, it is a science. Calculated ways of saying keep quiet, don't open your mouth, let it carry on. This too shall pass. I think we'll probably have time for one more question based on the time that's been given to me. Yes? Yeah. we
Saira, my question is similar to that, but might be a different one. So, if you are in a state of having no clarity and what to do in life, basically my question comes from here. Till graduation, we will be having some kind of goal. For example, in 10th, we have to get good marks. After 12th, we have to look for a good stream. And after that, to get a good job. After getting a job, you are not happy with it and you don't know what to do. You are sure that it is not what you want to do in life and you don't know where your interest actually fit in. How to deal with this situation?
Okay, so now let's take this aspect from two very different perspectives. One is the practical and the other is the spiritual. I'm going to draw another parallel from my own story just to give you hope and faith that things will fall in place. Despite being a student who was good at academics, at the end of 10th grade, I decided I really do not want to be extending myself too much. So I'll just do some diploma kind of thing and not going for my 11th and 12th because I don't want to be studying anymore. My father said, not happening. You need to study 11th and 12th. So I ended up doing PCMC. I went to a school, got in by merit, but went to a school where the setting was such that the entire faculty who were there did not like the way I had gotten the seat. So the chairman of that school was the same chairperson who was in charge of the school where I had studied grade 10. So based on my merit in grade 10, he gave me a seat in grade 11 in his other school. And that was a highly competitive school where they said without an entrance exam and passing in that entrance exam, nobody should be allowed to set foot into this institution, even if they are from a sister concern. So from the get-go, when my name went, it went with a note saying did not get through the entrance exam. So I had all the teachers against me. So when I would stand up to ask a doubt, they would say, you're so brilliant, you can figure it out yourself, we won't clarify your doubts, sit. I've been publicly humiliated in class, where I still remember the physics teacher telling me, the reason you can't figure this out is probably because it's genetic, your father must be a dunce. In class, and this is not a made-up story. So at the end of the 12th standard, with a lot of struggle, because I actually sort of fell out of love with studying after all of this. I just didn't want anything to do with academics. I almost failed in my grade 11 because I couldn't understand what was being taught in class. At the end of the 12th grade, when the results finally came, I had managed an overall 85%. And the vice principal, when she gave the marks card to me, she said, oh, you passed. By what stretch of imagination is 85% just passed? So this was the reception all through. And then I was very, very sure no more education for me. And Swami came in my dream and said, I want you to join Anandpur. I fought even with him. I refused to study for the Anandpur entrance exam. I said, let me fail so that then they will not give me a seat. When I went in to the hall, just the day before, or a few days before the exam, Swami again came in my dream and he was so angry and he said, I'm giving you a golden opportunity and you're throwing it away. You're useless. So I said, okay, this is not a fight worth having. So somehow I studied within a few days. I couldn't understand a single question in the paper. I just said, Sai Ram, Sai Ram, Sai Ram. I literally did this. None of the questions made sense. English creative writing, no problem. Things just flowed. But the actual physics, chemistry, math, I was blank. And then when the results came out, the name was on the top of the list. So I don't know what happened, but the seat happened. After the BSc was done, and Swami gave me the gold medal, I said, Swami, I don't want to study anymore. I just want to do service to you. I'll just keep sitting here and doing security duty and, no more studying for me. Swami just looked at me and he walked off. I tried this on 3 or 4 occasions. He would look at me and then he would walk away. Not a single word. Finally, about a year later, I think 2003 in Vrindavan, Swami said, either go to Tirupati to do music or do B.Ed. Now what kind of a choice was this? I was even more confused. So my father was very clear. He said, music, I don't know whether you can make a career out of it. So take something where at least you will have, some kind of professional possibilities. And I absolutely had an allergy to little children. So the thought of doing a B.Ed and then going into class and teaching them and listening to all their questions, and they will say, ma'am, and like, this is my nightmare coming true. I went for the B.Ed course with the explicit idea that I will finish it because I need a degree and then I will sit at home. When the teaching practice happened, the teaching practice of going into the school and actually teaching in class, I was assigned to school where it was a corporation school, and the children were from families where these children had been abandoned. So they weren't orphaned, they had been abandoned, and they had been sort of adopted by this trust which was running the school. So these kids were full of energy. For them, any little teaching aid meant that the world had been brought into their classroom. The first day, there was only trepidation. But from the second day, you know what they did? They would actually line up on the corridor outside and wait to see if I would come to class. And then they made up a song for me so that they would welcome me into class. I suddenly realized that children aren't such horrendous human beings. And they do have something that I don't have in me, which is acceptance and love. And I decided to foray into the field of education from there. So it wasn't an easy task at all. Going from wanting to drop out of school, to dropping out of college, to doing music or teaching. The only thing that I remember is, despite all the struggle, somewhere at the back of my mind, there was always this feeling that, please guide me to what is best for me. Because I don't know. How are we, who have neither foresight nor hindsight, in a position to decide what's best for us? We might get into an occupation that looks completely as a misfit to us. But from purely a practical perspective, running away from things is very easy to do. Stick-to-itiveness is what is a true test of human resilience. If you have what it takes to tell yourself, right now I'm not enjoying the work I'm doing, but I'm going to stick with it and give it another 6 to 7 months to see if I can make something of it for myself. Or in the meantime, while I'm giving my everything here, let me explore possibilities which speak to me. If you find something that resonates, ensure that you follow the ethical path where sufficient notice is given to the organization that you're in so that they find a suitable replacement before you walk out. Believe you me, in the education field, I find more and more people who come in as teachers, join for a day and leave the very next day. What about the children under their care? I find this has become a trend amongst those who are looking for jobs. If not this, something else. If not that, something else. How long will you keep jumping? So yes, there might be a misfit where you are, but give yourself the time to think it through before a change is made. And if you indeed decide to make that change, make sure that whoever you're with right now, part with them on good terms. Because that's going to take you, that blessing will take you a lot longer, farther, than just snapping ties. Thank you very much for your patient listening. One more question? Yes.
We have time, right?
I have time, but I think we have our other speakers waiting as well. So, yes. Please.
One last question.
Yes.
So, we all do sadhana, we all do prayers, we all do a lot of things, seva. All of a sudden, one day we are coming to know that our biggest loss, say our mother, or a close friend of us suddenly passed away due to heart attack, or suddenly we are knowing that the person who is doing so much of things is undergoing cancer, and within a fraction of 5 days we lost her. We still don't know where we have gone wrong. Whereas the other side you see people living 70s, 80s, 90s. You take the example of our Kannada superstar, 46-year-old, right? Punit Rajkumar. He has done excellent seva, and all of a sudden nowhere we came to know that he passed away due to cardiac arrest. In my family also two similar situations have happened where we lost two mothers, one due to stroke, one due to cancer. So we are unable to understand like what is happening, like where are our prayers, our things going on. If you can explain.
I don't claim to be an authority on how the larger powers work. Having seen a lot of personal loss as well, especially during COVID, there were many, many close friends, even the parents of some of our students who passed away. I'm going to go back to the biggest loss I have ever felt, and I'm being very honest about it, is when Swami left his mortal form. I think for about a year I couldn't speak. I couldn't even think of going to Puttaparthi because just the thought of going there and not seeing his physical form destroyed me on the inside. So there are a few things that you have brought up. Our prayers, our sadhana. What fruit do they bear if those closest to us who are doing all the right things are being taken away early? And there are others who are seemingly not doing all this, who are living to a ripe old age. Life and death is not a mathematical equation. That is the first thing. It's not I accrue so many good acts and I proportionately increase my lifespan. It doesn't work that way. Second, just because people around us have probably lost their lives early, should not stop us from continuing to lead a life that is worth living. The only absolute, only certainty in life is that all of us are going to die one day. That's the only certainty. Death will befall every single person. When it will come is also uncertain. So what is it that is in our control till that point is reached? Continuing to stay focused on what is right. Continuing to do the actions that do not cause harm to others. If possible, be involved in those actions which can be helpful to others. Being truthful and honest, even if it means that one has to lay one's ego down. But are we doing this for a bargaining chip? Are we doing this because we want something in return? Especially service, or that feeling of doing something. If our Mr. Punit had done service with the expectation that somebody should do something in return for him, he wouldn't have been called great. So, living life constantly with respect for life and living and breath is what it is all about. Knowing fully well that tomorrow my last breath may be taken, I want to be involved in something that keeps my spirit and soul on track and in a space of peace and quiet. That is one. Second, I talked about earlier that even if everything is taken away from us, will we continue to exist? The answer is yes. How we continue to exist is in our hands. Loving people around us is very important. And I don't mean love with expectation. Accepting those around us, accepting every single person around us as unique and beautiful and perfect the way they are is extremely important. But the minute you get attached to them, and what does this attachment mean? I'll give a simple example. I absolutely adore my children. I love them unconditionally, I love them. But if I can't take my next step without them, if I have to keep turning around to see, is my child okay? Is she eating? Is she sleeping? Is he doing what he's supposed to be doing? That is attachment. I have come for this talk here. My family dropped me here and they had to go elsewhere. Am I constantly thinking about where they've gone? Have they stuck in traffic? Have they reached where they have to? Shall I check my messages? No. I have faith that they have reached where they have to. So there is love, but there is no attachment. Because if you can get into that space, even when somebody very, very dear to us is taken away, we accept that that time was right for them. If I am living to a ripe old age of 90, it means I haven't learned the lessons this life has had to teach me. I still have it, I'm still making mistakes, I'm still undergoing this process of getting to where I need to go. Somebody suddenly drops dead at 45 years of age, it means that karmic debt that they had is over. Whatever comes after that, the higher powers will decide. It is not for us to understand or fathom. I think our worst mistake as a human race is trying to analyze things that are beyond our comprehension. And that is where all troubles begin. Everything is not physics and chemistry and biology, where we can put it under a microscope or look at, waves and radiation and figure things out. No. So the sadhana is sadhana only if it gets us to a space of detachment. Otherwise, it is just mental practice. It's just something I do. I get up in the morning, I have to brush my teeth. I'll not leave the house without brushing and having a bath. So sadhana is also like that. I'm doing this because it's on my to-do list. But if I've truly taken in the essence of it and it allows me to become detached from those around me while I still have a lot of love for them, acceptance will come. That is what happened to me with accepting Swami's transition. I said, if I'm so attached to the physical form, I haven't learned anything from him. I haven't learned that he's still with me. I haven't learned that everything that he's imbued me with, everything that he has blessed me with, all the proximity he gave me in order for me to become a better human being, I'm wasting it by constantly just clinging to that form in the orange robe. Yes, if he came back today, would I love it? Absolutely, I'd be running towards it. But am I living only in that thought of please come back, no. So acceptance will start when detachment begins. And detachment will begin when we truly, truly have love with acceptance but zero expectation. Thank you all very much for the opportunity. And I thank Swami for considering me worthy of sharing my thoughts here in this forum today. Jai Sai Ram.
Thank you, Sister Sindhuja. We really enjoyed your talk today. I'm sure we all got a lot of points to ponder about and implement in our daily lives. I now request Sister Sindhuja to come and collect our token of love. I also request Sister Sahana Shashidhar to present the token of love.